Hello everyone, it is Peter Sam the Narrow Gauge Engine here, and today I'll be ranking my top 20 episodes of Thomas and Friends, just because, why not? P.S. There's no Peter Sam episodes on here, because, I don't know, I'm weird like that. Just a little side note that this will be a two-parter. I've decided, just as I've come to a close of the first half of the list, that this will indeed be a two-parter. That is due to my lack of faith in my phone storage. I do not think it will handle the amount of stuff to go through. Another about 7 or 8 minutes of footage. I think we should just get straight into it and start with number 20. So in 20th for me is Renes and the roller coaster. Yes, I know, I've put season 7 episodes on my top 20 list. Don't come for me, please. Anyway, Renes and the roller coaster is quite literally a roller coaster. What I love about this episode is the camera angles, and I know that's weird to say, but you get these very cool shots where the camera's tilted and it makes it look like this flat ground that Renes is riding on is tilted. It makes Renes look like he is going up steep gradients when in fact he is just on a flat piece of track, and that's why it's in number 20, because they made use of something they'd never done before. So let's move on to number 19. So in number 19, yes, it's another Season 7 episode. It's Gordon and Spencer. The main reason I like this episode is because of the journey that Gordon's gone through to come back full circle. He was once the cocky engine that got stuck on a hill, and now he is the engine who has to help another cocky engine get up a hill. It's so poetic in that way, and I just think this caps off Gordon's whole story. Also, have you guys seen Spencer? He's sexy as shit. However, let's move on to number 18. And in number 18 is Dirty Objects. I like this episode for 2 reasons. 1 is the crash. Oh my god, it's amazing. And then 2 is the trivia around it. There's a lot of talk about this mysterious hand pushing James. I've never seen it, but it's cool to think that maybe if someone pointed it out, I could actually see it. And then you have this class line right here.
Something sticky splashed all over James.
But anyway, let's move on to number 17. And in number 17 is a 2-parter, so I guess it really kind of makes up one episode. It's Pop Goes the Diesel and Dirty Work from season 2. What I'm really recommending is Dirty Work, but you kind of have to watch Pop Goes the Diesel to understand. Pop Goes the Diesel gives us one of the most infamous songs from Thomas, the little rhyme that the trucks do, and it's great to see him get his comeuppance when he realises how Duck has tricked him. And Dirty Work just takes this to a whole new level. We get to see Diesel's vindictive side, his evil side. Why he's so evil is shown in this episode. And I love evil Diesel. I don't like how they've made him more nice. I hate it. But this is the episode, Dirty Work is the episode where we get to see all of this happen, which is why I will always love Dirty Work over Pop Goes the Diesel. However, let's move on to number 16. Next up on the list is Toby's Windmill. I love this episode for its sets mainly and the storm scene. The aftermath of the storm is just beautiful. The sets, just how everything's laid about, and oh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And the storm scene itself, I mean, this is the closest thing to an explosion we've had since, Rusty and the Boulder from season 5. This episode is drastically different to any other episode in season 7, and I love that episode for it. But let's move on to number 15. So in number 15 is another Toby episode, Toby and the Flood. This episode is categorised by its beautiful soundtrack that plays almost through the entire length of the episode. It adds so much to the episode, because I feel like if the soundtrack wasn't there, this episode wouldn't be all that great. I feel like it would be slightly lacking. Regardless, this is a great attempt at a disaster movie, I guess. So, you gotta give it props for that. I'm sure I saw Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with his family on a boat somewhere in there. However, the dam breaking is beautiful, as is the rest of this episode. So let's move on to number 14. So in number 14 is Thomas the Jet Engine. This episode is great, and if you don't like it, fight me. I think Thomas should be allowed to get silly sometimes. Not silly as in trains bouncing up and down, but silly as in this episode. It's a wild ride, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's got some of the series' most funniest moments. I won't replay them, because if you've seen my ranking every season 6, video, you've probably already seen them. This is a great episode and possibly one of Thomas's best episodes, you know? I think it's great. But let's move on to number 13. And in number 13 is another two-parter. Jack jumps in and a friend in need. Again, friend in need is the one that I'm really recommending, but you kind of have to watch both. What makes these two episodes so special is the fact that it focuses on all new characters. All of them are fleshed out. And it's just, again, the trivia around this episode and what it could have become is just, you know, mind-boggling. And it's a shame we never got to really see that outcome. So this and a couple of these Pack spin-off episodes is all we got to really see of the Pack series. These are the episodes that introduce us to them, and I'm grateful for it. Even if we had these only 2 episodes, you know, I think I'd still like them, even without, you know, Thomas's trusty friends or whatever. Jack Jumps In is really the baseline episode. It really sets the scene, it gives us our characters, it does a good job of doing that. But A Friend in Need takes this to a whole new level. I mean, first off, we had Ned being clumsy, which, I mean, is just so within his character. And then Jack jumping in, you know, in a good way. That is what makes this episode for me, as well as the bridge collapsing, because that is some beautiful demolition there. I feel like Jack jumping in to actually do a good deed and actually be successful is a great way to take this story, you know, take it down that route of Jack jumping in, and it actually helps, you know. Just 2 very class episodes. Let's move on to number 12. So in number 12 is Oliver Owns Up from season 3. I love this episode because I love Oliver, and that turntable crash, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Just when you think that Oliver is gonna make it, he's gonna save the day, he's gonna stop the trucks from pushing him into a turntable, it subverts your expectations. It's also another episode where an engine gets paid out, and in this case, I think it was, you know, it was fair enough. I also like how they changed the title. Resource and Sagacity, which was the original name for the book, was a bit, you know, iffy for kids. I don't think it would have been an appropriate title. So I agree with the change there, and I think it actually is better, even though Oliver doesn't really own up to anything. He just owns up to not being as good as others perceive him to be. Still a lovable episode, but let's move on to number 11. So in number 11 is The Flying Kipper. In season 1, all of the episodes really take place at the same time of day. In daytime, you know, it's the sun shining, the sky's blue, and they're very nothing episodes. The Flying Kipper is the first episode to have like a really like proper crash, and it's treated with total seriousness. Like, there's like a moment of silence where you can take it all in and realise what's just happened. And you have the balls to show humans beforehand just getting out the van. It's just, you know, so fresh. The episode is also very, very beautifully set designed. I mean, it's not as beautiful as, like, you know, season 5, but, you know, for the time, I think that was one of the most beautiful episodes ever. It's really an iconic episode, and you can clearly see why if you watch it. So thank you for watching part 1, and I'll be back shortly with part 2. Also, before you click off this episode, I have one final thing to say. The Summerset Railway. I know you've all been looking forward to it, but it cannot continue. Life outside of lockdown is too hectic for me to continue doing this in any regular sense. Episode 1 is almost complete, and it's the only one I'll do. I might come back to it in the future, but for now, I have to leave it behind. And it upsets me as much as it does you, I know, but, you know, I cannot physically force myself to make that all the time when there's too much going on. So I've decided we're going back to Tales from the Railway, because I feel like these 2-minute short stories were better in every way. You know, they were better to make, film, narrate, you know. So Tales from the Railway season 2, look out for it, boys.